Good morning, everybody, and good morning to the people over here in the Shiur and Avos Shalom Shul B'Shem Israel, and good morning to our very dear viewers in Torah Anytime. We are learning Amud Yomi Bava Metzia. We are in Bava Metzia, and which daf are we on? Remind me. I think we are in daf what? Samech Beis Amud Aleph. Is that true? Yeah. Samech Beis Amud Aleph Bava Metzia. We are in the middle of the page. Yeah, we're in the middle of the page, and we are in the Metzia. We were restarting something that we saw last time. Line starts with the word lahachzir. Those that can see the screen can see it. Yeah, lahachzir. Okay. Ad shemesivi. Okay. So, Zoom stopped. Okay, nice. Okay. Before we continue, we have to definitely recap on previous material. We have a machloikis between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Eliezer whether there is a mitzvah deoraisa to return Ribbis by Beis Din or not. I'm being very precise and clear over here in order to avoid mistakes. The question is as follows. When a person lent in Ribbis already, and then he got the money of the Ribbis, he lent 1,000 and he already has 2,000 in his hands. The question is as follows. Rabbi Eliezer says that there is a chiyuv deoraisa to return that extra 1,000 in Beis Din. It's not a nice thing to do. It's something that can actually be claimed by the lova, by the borrower in Beis Din. And therefore, that makes it into a mitzvah which is called lav hanita klase. Lav hanita klase means some lavim, some isur deoraisa. This is something you have to understand. Some isur deoraisa are irreparable. In other words, I'll give you a not nice example. So I thought it's an example that came to my mind when I learned the next sugya. And then I saw that Baruch Hashem was mechaven to the one and only Ritva. The Ritva gives the example. If somebody eats chazir, let's say, chas v'shalom, and the person ate chazir, and he was warned before he ate chazir, don't eat chazir, and he goes like, I'm going to eat chazir nevertheless, I don't care. So what does he get? Punishment, as a punishment? Lashes. Lashes. Now, is it going to help that when he sees the Beis Din about to lash him, he's going to throw up? That's the example of the Ritva. He's going to throw up the chazir. He's going to puke out the chazir. Is that going to help him? He's not going to add the lashes because he's like, he really regretted and turned things around, like he turns back the clock. No, he will not help. Even if he cries with big tears, yeah, and we believe his tshuva is sincere, that love is not called love hanita kla'aseh. Love hanita kla'aseh means a love that the Torah itself prescribed a specific action that can undo the bad thing you did. For example, you stole, there is a mitzvah saseh called veheshi v'segzela asher gozal, you return that you have stolen, okay? Or you're not supposed to leave over kodshim, basar kodshim, a korban you eat until the morning. If you left it till the morning, you can burn it. That's lav, and there's an assay. Lav that, this is the rule you have to understand before we continue. Lav hanita kla'aseh, a lav that has an assay attached to it, that the Torah decided that lav has what? A way out. That lav, a person does not get malchus. It doesn't get malchus, whether it did or what, doesn't get malchus.
Assuming that he,
no, even if it didn't.
he reverses it.
No, actually, no. Even if he didn't reverse it, the mere fact that it's lavanita, I'm 90% sure. Even lavanita kla'aseh, even if you didn't do it, that's a type of lav le'asenitan v'lo malchus. The Torah says what you should do is the aseh, not the malchus. Again, it's not so much a sugya, the whole lavanita kla'aseh. We're going to learn it in Makos, which will probably be our next masechta, Hashem. But this is a general rule. Now, if the lav is not nita kla'aseh, in other words, you can do tshuva and say you're sorry and try to correct and mend and teach everyone hilchas chazir your entire life. Very nice. But Lamais, if the Torah did not say that this is your way out, then you do get malchus. So this is a point which I'm not sure I understood last time. Having said that, let's re-understand Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says the lav of taking ribbis from a person is not halachically revocable. It doesn't say get a prize for not having to give it back in Beis Din. He says the law is so bad, my friend. What did he say? It's like murdering. Just like if you kill someone, unless you're Leo Hanovi, you can't really bring him back to life. You know, even if you work for Hatzala, if the guy's really dead and you killed him, you can't bring him back to life, right? So too, Ribbis is not something that can be undone. Will you give back the money to the victim, to the loiva? That would be a very nice thing to do. He'll give you a note to your mommy and a star in Shemaim. But Lamaisa, it's not the way the Torah says that the love is being undone. Okay? That's the word. Hence, according to Rabbi Yochanan, of course, the pashtus, again, I don't know, but as it seems to be from the ensuing sugya, yes, you'll get malchus. That's not a stira. Because you can't return it, it's stuck. You're stuck with it, and you'll get malchus. Yes, it's exactly. Rabbi Yochanan didn't change his mind. It's the same Rabbi Yochanan along, and I hope now it's clearer. Rabbi Lezer says no. Rabbi Lezer says there's an assay called what? We saw assay called what? V'chei achicha imoch. Your brother should live with you, and it's mentioned actually together with the loan and ribbis and all that. And therefore, says Rabbi Lezer, it is revocable, it is reparable. Yes, you can do something about it that the Torah told you can do. The person who's the loiva can take you to Beis Din and claim his money back, the ribbis back, and you're going to give him the ribbis back. And therefore, ribbis is not something which is given for malchus; it's given le hashava. It's given to be returned. So far, that was Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yochanan. Nobody changed his mind ever. It's just the two sides of the same coin. It's either returning or malchus. If returning is not a halachic option, of course you can return the money, but it's not what the Torah decided that you should do in Beis Din. Yeah, maybe B'dinei Shamayim. Also Mechlokas Rishonim was so. But since this is not B'dinei Odom, something reversible in Beis Din, therefore the other way out is very ouchy, and is malchus over your back, two on the back and one in the tummy. Vechule 39 times. It's exactly the two sides of the same coin, absolutely no contradiction and no regrets. And I'd like to start already, but okay, I'll give you room for a little bit of questions. Okay, after answering a few questions, we are back on track, and we are with our Torah Anytime viewers. Okay, and here we are. Meisivi. It says in the Bryce as follows: Hagazlonin umalve ribis, people who steal, thieves, and malve ribis, people, usurers, those who malve ribis, afapi shegavu machzirin, even though they collected already, they still have to give back the money. Now, we speak about two people, those who steal and those who actually just land with ribis. They're not the same. More Gazlonin, let's focus on Gazlonin. My afapi shegavu ika, what do you mean, although they collected? A Gazlan doesn't collect, right? This works for Bitoch Lumi, right? Gazlan is not somebody who collects. I gozul gozul. If he stole, he stole. He actually did the act. Iloi gozul. If he did not yet steal, his collection means when he's gonna actually carry out his plan, but he didn't yet steal. Gazlonim kolislu. You call them Gazlonim. They're not Gazlonim. Somebody who wants to steal is not a Gazlan. Elaima. Therefore, we have to really read the Brisa differently. Gazlonin my niu malve ribis, Gazlonin i.e. malve ribis, Gazlonin who are malve ribis, which is interesting. Again, malve ribis over here are called Gazlonin. Even though there was consent on the side of the loive, it's still called a Gazlon because the loive didn't really want it. He did it because you twisted his arm. We vacillate all the time, and it's good and it's healthy. Ribbis is continuously going to be something in the gray area between Ben Adam Lamokim and Adam Lachaveroi. So Ribbis does have the gzela aspect to it, and afal bishagavu machzirin. But one thing you see for sure, even though the malva Ribbis collected, now b'halva Ribbis, of course, there's collection. There are two stages to the story. There's lending and there's collecting. Even though he collected already the money, there is still a way out. There's still a way back, and halachically machzirin, they have to give back. That supports who? Who says that you have to give back? Rabbi Eli Ezer, Zain, Rabbi Ezer Machzirin, very easy. Rabbi Elozo, again, I'm making the same mistake, terrible. So Rabbi Elozo says Machzirin. Okay, so that's a question. That's an attack on who? On Rabbi Yochanan. Answers the Gemara, easy. Tanoi, it's a Machlokes Tanoim. Machlokes Tanoim. Okay, very nice. Meaning, it's true. We saw Brisa supporting Rabbi Elazar. We're going to see now Machlokes, or another opinion, supporting Rabbi Yochanan, the Tanya. It says in the Brisa, and here we go. Here we're going into the depth. It says in the Brisa, Rabbi Nechemia Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov poitrin es malve. They poiter, they exempt the malve vese orev, also the guarantor. The Ritva says you don't have to use the word guarantor over here. Let's focus on the malve. What do they exempt the malve from? You know what? From malchus, from lashes. Why? mipnei sheyesh ben kum aseh, because there's a mitzvah kum aseh, because there is a mitzvah to say midoraisa, to revoke what you did, to repair what you did, meaning what? My kumase, what kumase is it? What kind of a mitzvah to say is there to remedy what you did, which makes it into what, rabbis? Lava nitakla se, which means you do not get malchus. Who's that? Lav mishum damrinan lehu. Isn't because we tell them, amrinan lehu, we tell the malve beribis, kumu ahaduru. Get up, you get on with it, and adu, give back the money. Meaning what? So we assume now very, very seriously, Rabbi Nechem and Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov support who? They support Rabbi Elazar. They support the idea of, yes, the Torah says there's a mitzvah to say of what? The Chei Achicha Imoch. The Torah says you have to return it in Beis Din. It's a halachic ben Adam lachavero thing, and therefore you don't get malchus. So we have somebody supporting very nicely Rabbi Elazar Michlal. That is to say, the opinion which we didn't yet see, but is derived from the other opinion, that Tanakama, whoever argues on Rabbi Nechem and Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Tanakama Soval, Labne Aduninu, that it's really not something that's returnable, not refundable. You cannot give back the Ribbis money. Again, of course you can, but it's not something the Torah actually accepts as the way out. So L'choyer, so far so good. We have a Machloikes Tanoim that is the same as the Machloikes Amayroim. We see the Tanoim arguing about whether the lav is reparable or not, and therefore, is there malchus or isn't there malchus involved? So far, so good. Before we continue, I want to tell you something. If you still have the papers of the three places in the Torah, I recommend you keep those papers throughout the entire parak. The first set of when it says in the Torah in Parshas Shmois, yeah, the first set of psukim, I don't have it in front of me. Maybe you can read to me what it says there at the beginning. What? The very first one. Yeah, everyone's reading. Ah, very nice. Leute Simon Olav Neshech. Leute Simon Olav Neshech. Before we continue, you have to know something very, very important, which I sort of like hinted to. I wasn't sure myself how it goes. Leute Simon Olav Neshech gives you a lav at the moment of halvo. The second the person was malve, the other one beribis, before there was any collection. And even if afterwards is going to, now I'm not talking about whether you can repair it or not, that's going to be an issue, but the mere fact there was halva of tesimun, what's lasim? You imposed neshech on him, that's already a lav. The next psukim, if you remember, the second set of psukim uses other words of what? Loitikach, doesn't say something like that. Loitikach, lotikchu, do not take the neshech, which means what? Don't collect the neshech. So Pashtus, if you look at Tosfos over here, which we may or may not see inside, and this is important to realize before we go on, we're stopping here right here. There are two separate Isurim. Isur number one is what? To actually impose the ribbis. When you sit by the lawyer, by the bank, by the mortgage company, however you call it, you sit down and you have sketched out and mapped out and signed the contract with ribbis. That's considered as a lav of itself. Tasimun olav neshech, lav of the malveh. Now, when you collect the debt 1 month later, that's another isur, another prohibition of loitikach, don't take the ribbis. Having that in mind will help us immensely to understand the Gemara's answer. Okay? But so far, the Gemara wants to suggest that really it's a machlokas tanoim, machlokas amiroim is machlokas tanoim. In a way, it's good because neither Blazer nor neither Rabbi Elazar nor Rabbi Yochanan are attacked. In a way, it's not good because we don't like it when machlokas tanoim and machlokas amiroim are just the same. As I keep telling you all the time, as you say in English, don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah? My friend and I argue about machlokas Rav Eliashiv and Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, knowing that they argued it's stupid because the machlokas has been there already, right? So again, it's good, but it's not good in a way that the Tanoim and Roim repeat the same thing. And therefore, the Gemara wants to now disengage Mechlokas Tanoim and Roim. This coming piece of Gemara, I learned it a few times. There are many different ways how to learn it. I'm going to follow Tosfos, actually, with a touch of other Rishonim. Answers the Gemara. The Gemara rejects it and says, Loi, no. My kum aseh, you know what kind of kum aseh, what kind of mitzvah aseh is there to actually revoke the Isser, likroya shtoro, to tear up the shtar, which means, as I already hinted to you before, Machlekes Reb Lezer and Rabbi Yochanan is when exactly? When did that happen? After there was a loan, there was a collection, right? He collected the money, Mr. Big Shot Malve. The question is, can the lover take the actual money after the loan is over and the collection made? Govu, the collected, do you say that he can get it back or not in Beis Din, right? Here says the Gemara, no. Machlekes between the Tanoim, Rabbi Nechem, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, has nothing to do with that. They argue about the likroya shtar, which means if you tear up the shtar before you collected. Let's say the halva was Rosh Chodesh Adar, tomorrow, and the collection is supposed to be Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He needs halva for the Yomim Tovim, for Pesach. And on Purim was in a good mood, the Malva, and he tore up the shtar. Oy Ribbis, Rachmana litzlan. He went to the Amud Yomi Shiur. He watched Torah anytime. Oy Ribbis, Ribbis, Ribbit, Ribbit. He tore the shtar, and all is good. Is it all good? Is it really enough? Does that really undo everything? And now they're going to live happily ever after? That's the issue. We're not discussing the time after the collection. We're talking the time after what? After the decision, after the actual agreement, the alvo. The money was given with that nasty ribbis in it, and then you tore up the shtar. That's no questions for the next 5 minutes. I'm sorry. You have to get into the momentum, and then you can ask. My kasova, frag the Gemara. Wait a second. We see a machloikis here. 1 second. What's a machloikis? The Nakama says what? It's non-revocable, irreparable. That's it. You can't tear up the shtar. Even if you tear up the shtar, it doesn't help. Doesn't help. Sinner, stigma, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov and Rabbi Nechemia, they say no. Once you tore up the shtar, all is good. What's going on exactly? What's the story of tearing up the shtar? My kasova, what exactly do they think? Each side, what does each side think? Ikasova, here we come to another nekuda. If they think, shtar ha'omed ligvois kigovui dami. There is an opinion in Maseches Yevomis as follows. As you know, when a person takes a loan, and let's say the loan has mortgage as shibud, I'm not going to translate shibud again and again, yeah? I trust you know what shibud is after you've been through Bava Kama and Bava Basra. So let's say the person is mishuabad, everything is mortgaged by him. One opinion says a shtar that's oimed ligovois, that wasn't yet collected, but it already has its tentacles all over the person's house and car and money and everything, it's as if it's already collected, right? It's just a matter of time. They know where you live. I don't mean it as a joke. When the bank lends you, 3 million, and they know exactly where the house is, and the house is mortgaged, and they went there to see the place and to gauge and everything, your profession, then what? Then, the nice part of it, then what? Then it's as if your house was collected. Because once you fail, that's it. I'm not going to all the lomdis there, but if it's about to be collected, even before the collection in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it's already collected once the shtar was given. Once the shtar is in the hands, once the shtar is in the hands of what? Of the who? The shtar is in the hands of the malve. It has its long tentacles. It says shtar afsar de ara. Shtar is like the muzzle of the land, as if the land is pulled by the shtar. One opinion says it's already collected. Wait a second. If that's what they think of the Israel, then they already were, then what? Then already it's as if they collected, the Isser was done. What are we trying to say all the time? We're trying to disengage the machloikas of the Tanoim from the Amoraim. When did the Amoraim argue? After it was collected, right? When there was collection. And the Tanoim argue when there is no collection. Hey, but if you say that having the shtar is exactly like collecting, that it is one of the same. Who cares whether the money was physically given or not yet? At the end of the day, you're telling me that to have the shtar in the Malva's hands, it's as if he got all the money to his hands. And if they argue whether it is called to repair the lav by tearing it, then it's again they're arguing the same as Amoraim. Technically, they talk when the money was given, and they talk when the money wasn't given. But if you say the money given or not given is the same, so again, what's the difference? Because you say having the shtar, it's kilo collected. Okay, so must be, let's try the other way. The ilav kigovri dami. Let's say the shtar was not collected and not even philosophically collected. Let's say that a shtar in the hands of the malva is not considered collected. No, like we would think balabatishli. No, wasn't it collected? I have a star in my hands. It's potential. I know where he lives, and I may take his house and his car and his swimming pool and his tennis court. That's potential. It wasn't yet collected. If so, haloi ovid v'loi klum. So what wrong did he do? Yeah, why are you telling me so strongly, so starkly that tearing the star is not reparable? Why? He tore up the star and Gamarnu, right? That's before we know about the other love, right? In other words, just because there was a loan, and 2 minutes later or 2 days later, the Malva did teshuva and I tore up the star. What did I do? Why would anyone think that I'm a sinner for life, as you call it, a stigma? What's going on here? Answers the Gemara. Answers the Gemara what you may already know. Le'olam kasovar. Really, both sides believe shtar ho'emid ligvos lav kegovedomi. That's for sure that a shtar which was not yet collected is really not yet collected. In other words, we take things in a stride, slowly. Once the shtar is, we side with the opinion in Yevomis that believes, once the shtar is in the hands of someone, as long as there's no real collection, it's waiting at bay, it's waiting in the corner. The Gavia was not yet done, there was no collection. However, you're going to tell me, so what wrong did he do? What wrong did he do? Oh, he did very wrong. And soon we're going to see what's the machloikes. The hakamash malan. Here comes the machloikes and tells me as follows: the shuma miltahi, or I would say here it's not shuma, it's suma with a sin, which means to just impose the halva as of itself without collecting, without shmolecting. The actual having the loan as of itself is an isser by itself, which is so bad that according to one opinion that is of Chachamim, even if you tear up the star, that's very nice, very noble of you. Wow, you lost money. Maybe they're going to write about you in Mishpacha. Oh, what a tzaddik. But Lemais, at the end of the day, the love of what? Of imposing a halva is not revocable even by tearing the star. I'm going to return the money. That's a separate cheshbon. And ironically, says Tosfos, let's say you go along with halva, you collect the money and then return it. According to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Elazar, a good boy. For what? For the other love of collection. But the love of halva stays by itself, according to Chachamim, to Tano and Tanakama. The love of halva, the stigma stays, or whatever you're going to call it, and the malchus stay there. Because that love is of itself is the love of just lending. Even if you tore up the star and you cried with big tears, Hashem loves you, do tshuva, all very nice. But the mice, if you got a throw, you got a warning before you wrote up the star, and you still went along with the star, and there's a star, at that moment, you're over a separate isser of what you just saw in your charts, loy to simun. To place, to impose the isser is already a problem as of itself. According to the Nakama, it's not reparable. According to Rabbi Elazar, according to Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Nechemi, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, it is yes reparable, and tearing the star is good. That's the way out of the isser of lo tesimun. And hachinami mistabra, and it makes sense to look at it that way, that the isser of tesimun is a separate isser which is not connected to the collecting. Ditnan. It says at the end of the perek, it says as follows: as I told you, lots of accomplices in that crime, lots of partners in the crime. It says in the Mishnah, the following people that are over below ta'aseh, the following, actors in the scene, protagonists in the story, they're all over lo ta'aseh. And by the way, there are a lot of lo ta'asehs mentioned there. Amalve, the person lending, va'aloive, as we saw, right? It's the only place in the Torah where the victim is blamed, right? The loive is what is really also belav. Ha'orev, the guarantor. The guarantor will end up paying also. There's something extra. There's an actual thing he's going to do. He may very well, if the loive fails to pay, the orev, the guarantor, will pay with Ribbis. The Adim, and also the Adim, also the what's the names? The Adim, the Adim are, the witnesses. Now, also it says the Sofer. The Mishnah also says the Sofer, Hol Halabalu, everyone involved is over, besides Lifnei Iver, they're over the issue of Ribbis. Now the question is why? Correct the Gemara, Bishlama, I understand, Kulu Ovud Maisa. Out of that list that we just mentioned, everybody does something real at the time of collection, which means, when you came here this morning, be honest with me, I don't know if you knew that there's a separate love of what? Of lending, even without collecting, right? So If you want to tell me that the real Isser is only there at the time of collection, then I understand Malve, Loive, and Oiv, they all do something, right? The guarantor pays to the Malve, the Loive to the guarantor, money switches hands, money passes hands at the time of the actual payment, they all do something bad. Ella Edim, my Ovud, the Edim at the time of collection, they're not there. They already went to Acapulco, for Pesach. The Edim are not involved at all. They're not doing anything active at the time of the actual payment. What do you want from their lives? I mean, maybe Lifnei Iver, but why are they over the Avera of Ribbis? Elalav Shmami, no, must be from here the Shuma Miltahi. We see from here clearly that Shuma is a real thing, which means the actual placing the chov, placing the debt with Ribbis upon imposing Ribbis over the poor loive, whether he agrees or not, is a lav by itself, and that lav the edim are over. The edim are Metzia l'dvar avera of the actual loan. The loan itself being taken, Ribbis ktsutza, when it's niktzatz and decided, and the money goes and they sign and they watch and they sign and they help the whole process, the lawyer, the secretary, I don't know who else is over. Yeah, anybody that's aiding and abating besides Lifnei Iver, they're over because the Isser of the Halavos of itself is an Isser. And there the Edim are absolutely involved. And that proves to you that it's an Isser by itself. And that Isser is the Machlokes Tanoim, whether you can repair that by tearing up the shtar, yes or no. There's a separate Machlokes Amayroim later on. When you collected it already, the money, Mr. Big Mogul Malve collected the money, whether can return it or not, by what? By doing that's Machlekes of Lazar, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Yochanan. There are two separate inyonim. Shmamino, from here we can hear that. Okay? I would like to also say something. I'm also, a lot of people, yeah, okay. You should just realize something interesting which occurred to me. This is not a Musa Shiur and it's not a halacha Shiur. Absolutely not. However, it's interesting to know, people may not know, people may think, before I read that, I thought, maybe can take a loan. I didn't really think that la halacha, but I'm saying maybe can take a loan with Ribbis. And a day or two later, you can tell the Chilonia landlord, whoever, the bank, the building society called in English, whatever. Yeah, you can tell them a day or two later, I'm going to get my heter iska. Apparently not. If the actual isser is the lending, right, and borrowing, nothing to do with the actual collection, you're already an over isser doraisa, you have to make sure you have a very good heter iska at the time of the loan. Not halacha shiur. I'm not sure I'm going to go now into details. Just 1 second. Yeah, Masha'enken, you should know that really there's a problem by lending and on both sides at the time of the loan. Whether you're going to tear it up tomorrow and maybe it's even a joke, I don't know exactly the details, but Lamaisa, clearly we see there's an Isser by itself. I'm not, again, ask your rabbi or your Rav or whoever you want to ask, but this is not a simple business and you have to have your own heter iska. Maybe I'll show you mine tomorrow. And by the way, if you live in Bet Shemesh, well, you do, then tomorrow night there's a shiur in Ramah Gimel by Rav Pinchas Vind. He's a very, the top authority, Binyan Ribbis, is going to give a shiur in Ramah Gimel about Ribbis. Maybe interesting for you, and I'm sure you're all going to understand the Hebrew. Well, okay. And, but that's tomorrow night at 9:30, somewhere in Ramah Gimel. You see there are notices all over the streets. We're going to have some question break. Okay, 1 second. Let's just summarize again. Every option here has tshuva. There's hope. There's tshuva. There's no stigma. I'm just explaining again before we continue what we just said. If the person imposed, as the Torah calls it, sam, in other words, there was a decision alone, yeah, with a written contract of Ribbis, and not even written, verbal contract of Ribbis, there is an Isser. Yes, right now there's a black angel in Shemaim, if you want to call it that, there's an Avera. Is it reparable or not? Well, that's good for the Machlokas. It is reparable. How? According to Tanakama, he gets lashes for writing the shtar before even collecting it. Once he gets lashes, there's a kapara. Of course, you shouldn't collect it to be over the other issue. According to who? According to the other Tanoim, according to the Tanoim to Rabbi Nechemia, he says no. You can actually return you can't tear up the shtar. You should really, and not get malchus. Finished. Now there's a second part. If he did not tear the shtar, okay, and he went on and then he collected, starts another machlokes, whether collecting the money and returning it does the job, or do you need malchus? Finished. Okay. Yes. Good. Yes. Okay. Continue. And then we continue. Yaakov. Let's start a new part, a new segment of the sugya. Somebody over here spoke about goyish courts, and that's actually going to be the next piece over here. Omer Rav Safra. Rav Safra seems to be a supporter of Rabbi Elazar. And Rabbi Elazar, what did Rabbi Elazar say? Rabbi Elazar is a halacha, by the way. Rabbi Elazar is the halacha, as I think all Rishonim say, or definitely most Rishonim. What does Rabbi Elazar say again? When it's Ribbis deoraisa can be, and should be collected back from who? From the Malve. The Malve should return it, and that's his way out of Isser. However, the Rabbanon, when they impose their Ribbis Rabbanon, Avak Ribbis, V'chulei, the Ribbis Rabbanon does not have to be collected in Beis Din. Yeah, Ribbis Rabbanon, Chachamim did not ask you to take it back. You're not allowed to do it. But the Eved, if the person collected the Ribbis Rabbanon, he stays with it. Because Rabbanon were not as strict sometimes, not always. Rabbanon were not as strict with their own halachas as with halachas of Torah. Yeah, I'm answering your question from last week. Okay? Says Rav Safra. Rav Safra wants to give us a very, very interesting rule. Very interesting rule, which I've never seen in my life. Such a interesting comparison to Goy Shalom. We're comparing ourselves now to the Goy Shalom in a way very interesting. What does it say? He gives you a rule, two rules. Rav Safra is giving you two general rules. And what does he say? Baruch Hashem. Kol she'ilu b'dinehem mutzi'im miloive lemalve. If you go to the court in England or America or wherever, or China, Japan, and it's a type of ribbis that the Chinese or American court would force the loive to pay the malve, mamish your case, although but you were Jewish people, let's imagine there's a guy called, I don't know, Tim McKenzie, Tom McKinley, whatever. If Tim lent Tom what with interest, and the loive fails to pay, he goes to the court in America, right? And the court would force him to pay with the ribbis. Sir, it's part of the agreement you signed. You have to pay, including the interest. If it's a type of interest that goyim claim in Beis Din, meaning, in other words, if the balabatish mind of the goyim mind views that as real interest, which should be collected in Beis Din because they are pro-interest, you signed. Be a man of your word. If that kind of ribbis is there by us, the same kind of ribbis bedinenu in our halachos, machzirin mimal veloive. That kind of ribbis, which is the oraisa, we force the malve to give back to the loive, meaning Rabbi Elazar. We are Rabbi Elazar supporters here, and we say if the ribbis is inverted commas real ribbis, then in the goyish court would be returned, would be not returned, would be actually forced out of the hands legally of the hands of the loive. We take that from the malve back to the loive. And on the other hand, the other side, the other rule, which is really the other side of the same coin, kol she'ilu b'dineim ein motzin miloive lemalve. Let's say there's a kind of interest the team owes Tom, but really that kind of ribbis, the goyish court, the British court, would not force it in court. Yeah, why is a good question, and the example we're only going to see in a long time. It's a type of ribbis between Tim and Tom, but that ribbis is something that is not collected. If he goes and screams to him in the, I don't know, Old Bailey, they would not make a case out of that. Let's say, then bedinenu ein machzirin mimav leloive. That kind of, so to speak, minor ribbis that's not viewed in the Balbash Tishamayim as real ribbis, we too, in our halachos, if it was collected, keneged halacha, was collected by the malve, we don't force it out of him to give back to the loive. We're the opposite of the goyim, but opposite attract. We're on the same level. What they do collect, we don't, and vice versa. Okay? That's the rule, and as we're going to develop, we're going to understand it. I'm sorry, there's no room for questions anymore. Omar Lay at 10:25, I'll be a much nicer person and listen to your questions. You can also email me questions if you see me in anytime. Akiva1971 @gmail.com. Amar le Abai le Rav Yosef. Says Abai to Rav Yosef. Abai asked his rabbi, Rav Yosef is Rav. He asked him, "V'klolahu, is that so? Are you sure that this is really a real klal, what Rav Stafer is telling us?" I'm going to challenge that rule, and I'm going to repeat the rule again and again. But let's start with a challenge. I'll give you a rule. Seil b'seil. You know about seil b'seil already. Can I actually lend my neighbor, forget about one bag of milk, which Ramo allows. Let's say you lend your neighbor a real, big thing. Let's say you live in a society where, I don't know, you're not a very rich person, and you lend your neighbor, I don't know, not 1 dozen eggs, like I don't know, 100 eggs, Erev Pesach. You lent her 100 eggs, okay, and you say, I want 100 eggs back regardless of the price. She comes a week later, giving you back 100 eggs that are worth more. They're worth 10 shekels more. Is that a problem? Possibly. What about big stuff? I don't know, one factory lending the other 1 ton of, I don't know, bananas, and then they have to give them another ton of, and they're worth $2,000 more. That's called sale b'sale. You're not allowed to lend a certain amount of food in order to get back the exact same amount of food. And you say, yeah, even if the food once comes back is worth more, yeah, we say what? We say that is considered as Ribbis derabonon, not deoraisa, because it's not really lending tzutza. What's tzutza? You did not say, I want more bananas, I want more eggs. You said, I want the same amount, even though it may be inflation, and I'm going to get more. That's midorabonon Ribbis, and by our laws, we say you don't have to give it back. La halacha, if you got back the 100 eggs that are worth more, you don't have to give her, one tray to give kilo change. Yeah, you don't have to. But the evid, don't do it at home. But the evid, you don't have to give it back because it's the rabbanon. And look at that. Very sale b'sale. Look at sale b'sale. The bedinehem in the halachas, so to speak, of the goyim, moitzin miloy v'lemalve. Of course, if I lent you 100 eggs, yeah, and I wrote a contract, between Tim McKenzie and Tom McKinley, he wrote, I lent you 100 eggs, I want 100 eggs back, and the other person doesn't give 100 eggs, he gives 90 eggs, you'll take him to court, to a small claims court. It will be a very funny thing, but yeah, of course, you owe him the 100 eggs. Where are they? Of course, the Goyish court will say, give him the 100 eggs back, yeah. Yet, in our laws, ein machzirin mimal v'luloive. By us, although it's because it's the Rabbanan, excuse me, you don't give it back. So you see, your rule doesn't work. Doesn't work right. You see that there's something by Goyim. If Tim lent Tom 100 eggs, of course he can claim it in court if you can prove it. Show the WhatsApp movie that lends him, yeah. And what? And yet by us, you don't have to give it back. So something here doesn't work right in your rule. Omar Lay, so he told him no. So Rav Yosef answered Rabbi, inhu they b'teres pikoden osoloyodei. They, maybe correctly so in the Goyish mind, they don't see that as Ribbis. They don't collect Ribbis as Ribbis. They collect it as Pikodon, which means just give back what you got. Yeah, that's simple. Even the Goyish mind, that's simple justice. If Tim lent Tom 100 eggs, I think all over the world, even in whatever strange countries, they would what? They would say, of course you have to give him back. It's like theft. It's like you deposited, you have to give back, which means they don't view it as Ribbis. We're now fine-tuning Rav Safra's rule. What Rav Safra meant was to say that if the Goyim view it as Ribbis and collect it as an extra Ribbis, yeah, meaning there was interest, like in the bank, yeah, he borrowed 1 million from the bank, knows very well every month he'll have to pay an extra $500, I don't know, yeah. Then what they view as Ribbis and collect it as such, we say to the Malbe, hey, give it back to the Loibe. Egg for egg, milk for milk, or bag of rice for bag of rice is not viewed by the Goyim as Ribbis. So that's not part of our story. We're looking for what is the Balabatisha mind views as Ribbis. That's the question. Omer Ravina Ravashi, we're back on track, attacking again Rav Safra with his rule of Goyim and Jews. Omer Ravina Ravashi, I'll give another example that seems not to work with the rule. Mashkanta beloy nakyoso. Mashkanta beloy nakyoso is as follows. Mashkanta, it's a mashkanta without deducting. Lenakot with a chof, also in modern Hebrew, means to deduct. Yeah, lenakot maschum machov, not with the kuf, not to clean. Lenakot with the kaf means to deduct. So what's mashkanta below nachyoso? Yeah, says Rashi. I'm not reading inside. I'll read it inside in honor of you coming back. Mashkanta below nachyoso. Look at the second to last Rashi. Mal v'mois alakerim. Yeah, a person lent someone $1 million. I don't know how much a vineyard is worth actually. Someone lent someone else $1 million, and let's say it's a guy in California. He has a nice little vineyard. Okay, I am lending you $1 million, and in return, I want as a collateral your vineyard. I want to sit there, eat the grapes all the time, make wine, and sell it. And that, in the Goyish mind, that's viewed as a collateral. Yeah, and meanwhile, he's eating all the fruit, selling, eating, making wine, having parties. Yeah, which means although the $1 million will be back next year Tom paid Tim the $1 million, and he gets his what? His vineyard back. Now, what about all the $500,000 worth of grapes that the lender ate all the time? You're not going to see that back. The oichel b'teres Ribbis, it's a distorted form of Ribbis, but it's Ribbis. If that happens between Reuven and Shimon, that's a big no-no. It's not a doraisa, possibly, but it's a Ribbis. Why? The Maya said that people should be careful. If I actually have a collateral, like a vineyard, for example, and I use the collateral as a malve, that's worth money, right? And I still get the basic capital amount that I lent last year. I get it later. Hey, something extra is in my stomach, the extra grapes. And if I'm not menakeh, if I do not deduct them, that's Ribbis. That's Ribbis. And of course, when it comes to us, that should not be done. People should know that. People should know. When you take a collateral from your friend and you're actually using it, using his phone, using his computer, right? And then he gives you the full amount, that's Ribbis. Why? Because the usage of the computer, people pay 50 shekels an hour to use a computer, right? And therefore, that's a distorted way of Ribbis, but it's Ribbis. Okay, and look what the Goyim say, and look what we say. In their laws, what would they say? Who would they support? Who? The Malve. They would say, listen, if that's the agreement you wrote, that the Malve sits in your vineyard, eats the grapes regardless, and still wants the entire amount back, but the Goyish court give it back to him in full. In other words, let's say that the vineyard owner, who is the lova, the borrower, starts playing games and borrowing and or puts yellow and red tapes all over. Says, you don't touch my grapes. I allow you to be here, not eat my grapes. Mapitom. The cops are going to come and support who? The Malve. I deserve to sit in my collateral, whatever vineyard that I was given. So, but the goyim, they do take it out of the hands. Yeah, they do support the Malve. Continue, but dinenu. Yeah, we flip the page. But dinenu by us, ein mechzin memalve leloive. By us, although it's a bad thing to do, the Rabbanon, but if the guy ate the grapes, we don't ask him to deduct it b'diavad, because it's the Rabbanon. So we don't ask for the all the worth, all the value of the half year of grapes that he ate back. We don't say that. We don't ask back. Oh, so you see, your formula just doesn't work. But the goyim, they do ask back, and they do view it as serious interest that should be given back. And yet we, b'diavad, I stress, not turn a blind eye. Rabbanon just say you don't have to give it back. So you see again the rule doesn't work, right? Omerle, he answered no. Inhu they, the goyim, you know why the Japanese court and the whatever Mexican court, why do they view it that way? And they say, yeah, the guy should eat all the grapes and still get all the money. They don't view it as interest, because again, right, in the simple goyish mind, we don't view that as interest, right? It's not like I'm lending you 1,000 and I'm getting 1,500. How do they view it? And by the way, I'm not a koifer, but they're not completely wrong. If you look deep in halacha, they say b'toiris zevini osa leyadayu. They say no, they're not completely wrong. The goyim, they say when the person borrowed million and gave the vineyard to the lender, it's as if he sold it to him. And you know that the Torah even supports the idea. It says ba'al choiv koine mashkoin. Right? Remember that. It says, V'luchot yetzdoko. It's a Bitzkok thing. Yeah. In other words, they say, no, it's all a sale. Which means if I gave someone $1 million and maybe I'll never see them back, right? Now when I sit in his vineyard, temporarily, says the Goyish judge, whoever that is, Macmillan, yeah, he says, it's as if Mr. Lender owns the place. If he owns the place until he gets the money back, he's eating his own grapes. They don't view that as still belonging to the loive, and I'm going to get all the money, and on top of that, ate all the grapes. They see that as the malve eating his own grapes from his own vineyard. He's Kilo now the new owner. Next year, the loive will give back the money. There'll be a new acquisition, right? So Mimela, that's a story. The goyim don't. I said what I meant. The Gemara says, Ella. No, excuse me. No. Let me say the sentence. Then you continue. I'm sorry. Again, the formula is as follows. Ribbis that's collected by goyim, big red letters, as ribbis, as interest, that every goyish court guy and lawyer knows, that's called interest. and therefore they force it to be collected because they believe that's the right thing. We view that glaring red alert Ribbis as something that if b'diavad collected shaloi kedin has to be returned to the loive. Ella, says the Gemara, okay, kol she'ilu b'dinei dekomer of Safra mai asula shmu'inan. In other words, if so, all this business of something taken by the dinim of the goyim that Rav Safra said, has to be returned to the loive by us. What is it coming to tell us? Achi asula shmu'inan. This is what it comes to tell us. Now you're going to get it much easier. Now, yeah, because I already explained it to you. Kol she'ilu b'dinei mutzin miloive le malve, anything that the goyim take out legally according to their system from loive to the malve, you signed the contract. You said, you liar. You sat there in the bank, in the building society, in the thing, in the mortgage, and you signed interest. Give the ribbis. By us, we say that kind of ribbis, it was keneged halacha taken. We say give back to the loive. Umay knew. What is it? One case. But one very, very, very big case. Ribbis ktsutsa ukadoblozo. Ribbis ktsutsa is always a safe haven we can go to. What's ribbis ktsutsa? It's a classical ribbis deoraisa. What's ribbis ktsutsa? Katsutz. Ribbis ktsutsa means a pre-decided loan. In order to have a ribbis deoraisa, yeah, you have to follow at least two conditions. It has to be a loan, not sale. A sale is always the rabbanon, even though there are a lot of ribbis in sales and in the give and take of selling and buying. Only halva is daraisa, and only if the ribbis is decided at the time of the halva. As they're sitting by the lawyer, sitting by the table, deciding the ribbis at the time of halva, that's isur daraisa. And the goyim, of course, say, hey, you sign a contract, our edim, give them the ribbis. We say, yeah, that clear ribbis, which every goy in the street knows is ribbis, we say that should be returned daraisa if was taken, shaloi kedin, be taken back and given to the loive. Now, kol she'ilu b'dinein. Now, what about the other rule? I don't know if you noticed. The other rule was, lying low all the time. The other rule is very dormant. What was the other rule that Rav Safra said? Kol she'ilu b'dinein ein mutzi'in, b'dineinu ein machzirin. If there's a type of ribbis that, by the goyim, ein mutzi'in, what does that mean? By them, they do not collect it from the loive. If Tim and Tom have some kind of agreement, there are certain cases where the goyish court, at least in the times of the Gemara, then he cannot go to court and claim it. It's not official enough, not formal enough, as we're going to see. Such ribbis by us Yidden, we say it will not be collected back from the malve to the loive. What is it? Ribbis mukdemes, ribbis mucheres. Early ribbis or late ribbis, you'd probably like to call it something fancier, predated or post-dated ribbis, which means that's a Mishnah. In a few dapim, we're going to see the Mishnah. Let's say I have my eyes, the Mishnah says I have my eyes on a nice guy and I want to actually borrow from him. And I say, you know what, I'm going to give him some extra money to butter him up. And I say, oh, this is ribbis. Machlokes Rishonim, whether I have to say it or think it. My idea is not stam, to give him a nice shalach manas innocently. And I happen to later on take a loan. I'm giving him a super fancy shalach manas, which I never ever gave him in my life, because I know very well that I'm going to take a loan when, without ribbis, in 5 days' time. So I'm predating the ribbis with clear purpose of ribbis. Some Rishonim say only if I say that it's ribbis, or it's late ribbis. I gave back all the money and said, you're such a nice guy, I'm giving you extra for the loan, not stam as a maton of his daughter's wedding. In other words, any early ribbis before the loan or late ribbis after the loan are also midrabanon. Also midrabanon, you have to be very careful. Of course, you can, once a ribbis is settled, by the way, certain ritva, of course you can give regular gifts and stuff to your friend, which was a malva. You're not like a mudar hano your entire life, yeah? You don't have to be nasty to the guy who did you a favor. But lemaisa, you cannot connect ribbis to a milva either before or after either. Now that, but the goyim, is not something that can be collected. Why? Because it wasn't agreed upon. Yeah, it was behind the scenes. Yeah, when Tim knows that Tom, that Tom, the rich friend, will lend him money, so Tim all of a sudden, invites him to a fancy meal with, sort of fat big steak and to a country club. I don't know what. He gives him a nice gift in advance. Yeah, yeah, let's say promises to give him a gift before or after, and then he doesn't give it, of course the Goyish court won't do anything about it. It's not part of the official deal, right? He can't say, where's my invitation to the country club? It was a ke'ilu not connected, right? So the Goyish court will not say, you have to give it to him. It wasn't part of, the deal where they set by the lawyer and actually took the loan. Therefore, the goyim, they're not going to collect a nice gift which you promised your goyish friend, right? Such ribbis, which by them is not collected, by us is not collected either. The other way, if given to the malva pre or post, that's not a good thing. Obviously, I recommend the malva to give it back to be clean, but halacha doesn't demand in Beis Din to give back the predated or post-dated ribbis, and that's it. Shkoich, and that's the rule. Okay, we didn't get as far as I wanted, but it's okay. It's good. It's fine. As long as we have it clear. Thank you very, very much to all our Torah Anytime viewers, for YouTube viewers, and should have a very good week. Tomorrow night, anybody interested, there's a Shiur Ramah Gimel about Ribbis, but Rav Pinchas Din. Thank you very much. It's Loch Rabbah.